My 30-year-old son leaned in during a movie and whispered words that changed everything. "Mom," he said, "when I'm with you, I feel something more." He was my son. I was his widowed mother. I knew it was wrong, but after years of loneliness, his forbidden confession was the only thing that made me feel truly seen again. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, the storyteller on the Adult Women's Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within American families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. Before I dive into the details of that unforgettable night, I have to ask, where are you tuning in from? Share your city in the comments below. I'm curious to see how far this message travels, as what I'm about to reveal is something I never imagined I would say out loud. It began like any ordinary evening, serene, uncomplicated, and known. Yet by the time the credits of the film we were engrossed in began to roll, everything had transformed. His words were gentle and surprising, sending a shiver down my spine and making my heart race. From that instant, there was no turning back. Allow me to guide you on this journey. On a rainy Tuesday night, the wind rattled the shutters, a haunting reminder of solitude that creeps in with age, especially in a house that feels far too spacious for just one. After wrapping up the kitchen cleanup post-dinner, I found myself humming a tune and enjoying a second glass of red wine when Liam strolled in from the living room, flashing that charming boyish grin of his. "Mom," he asked, "are you still in the mood for a movie?" I grinned, drying my hands on a dish towel. "Absolutely." I have been waiting. Liam returned home a few months back, following a breakup that had taken a toll on him. I kept my inquiries to a minimum. No need to. I recognized heartbreak the moment it appeared before me. Honestly, I found myself pleasantly surprised by his return home. The house felt quieter in his presence. We nestled into the couch, a cozy throw blanket draped over our legs, the room illuminated solely by the flickering screen and the sporadic flashes of lightning outside. The storm intensified, pounding against the windows, yet within these walls it was cozy and secure. Settling into the plush cushions, a pleasant warmth from the wine coursing through me, I caught a glimpse of Liam as he browsed the streaming options, his focus unwavering. He had always possessed striking good looks. With a tall, lean frame, soft brown hair, and a strong jawline, he turned heads wherever he went. However, at the age of 30, a new element emerged, a sense of unwavering calm, and a subtle heaviness lingers in his gaze. It sparked my curiosity about the experiences he had endured, the struggles he kept hidden from me. We found ourselves revisiting a classic thriller from the 90s, a film we both knew inside and out, having watched it countless times before. Ultimately, the focus was never on the film itself. The essence lay in the quiet moments between the words, the soothing presence of being together without the necessity of sound. As we reached the midpoint, I sensed Liam move next to me. His arm grazed mine, and I stayed right where I was. It was pure, simply a feeling of warmth. Acquaintance. Feeling a bit chilly, he inquired gently. I simply shook my head in silence. For some reason, my throat felt constricted. Perhaps it was the wine. Perhaps it was something different, an elusive quality in the atmosphere that I couldn't quite identify. Several more minutes ticked by. He leaned in slightly, the fresh, subtle citrus scent of his skin blending with my own. "Mom," he murmured. His words drew my gaze to him, gradually. His face was illuminated solely by the flickering glow of the TV, yet his eyes, those profound, sincere eyes, were locked onto mine. "What's going on, darling?" He took a moment to pause. The atmosphere between us changed palpably. A presence was approaching. My heart raced, not out of fear, but because I felt an unmistakable energy in the air. Tonight was destined to be extraordinary. "I'm not quite sure how to put this into words," he said softly, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. "But when I'm here with you, I experience something entirely new, something beyond my understanding." My breath was taken away. I gazed at him, uncertain if I had truly caused him pain. My fingers gripped the blanket a bit more firmly, not out of fear, but due to the unexpected intensity of the moment. "Liam." "I realize it's not right," he said hurriedly, a hint of panic in his voice. "I realize it might not be the best thing to admit, but it's been on my mind for weeks. Each time we settle in for a movie, every time I catch your laughter in the kitchen or see you wandering in your robe in the morning, it comes back to me. I'm experiencing a feeling, and I'm uncertain about how to handle it." I remained silent. I was unable to. My lips parted just a fraction, and for a fleeting moment, the only sounds that reached my ears were the soft hum of the TV and the far-off rumble of thunder. This was an unexpected turn for both of us. As he gazed at me, I noticed an absence of cruelty or deceit in his expression, only vulnerability, honesty, and an additional element, something profound and deeply felt. "You're feeling lonely," I finally admitted, my voice gentler than I anticipated. "So are you," he whispered. My chest throbbed with discomfort. He was right. There were nights I wept into my pillow, recalling the silence that enveloped me after my husband passed, the long days devoid of warmth, the endless hours consumed by nothing but routines and reruns. Liam had transformed into my sole genuine link to warmth, to vitality. Introducing this, I ought to have stepped back. I ought to have said something to make him stop. Instead, I took his hand, softly and deliberately, and he allowed me to. That night unfolded without any further events. All boundaries were respected. All promises remained intact. Yet, something shifted between us. An opening, a revelation, a hidden truth we could no longer ignore. As the credits rolled, we remained perfectly still, lost in the moment. The credits began to roll. The rain gently eased. I continued to grasp his hand tightly. I felt it in my bones. This was far from finished, far from it. The following morning had an unmistakable sense of change. Not due to any events that occurred, but rather because of those that did not. Before the sun peeked over the horizon, I rose as I often did, quietly making my way to the kitchen, my bare feet softly touching the cool floor, my robe casually tied around my waist. The storm had moved on, leaving the outside world quiet and serene, while the sky donned a rich early blue, poised just before the first rays of golden light began to emerge. I was uncertain whether Liam had risen yet a part of me secretly wished he hadn't. A moment was necessary. "Hold on a second." As I stood at the sink, gazing out at the yard while the coffee brewed, my mind swirled with a quiet tempest of thoughts. What did he truly mean last night? What had I truly experienced? Did I conjure the entire experience in my mind, or even worse, wish for it to be something greater than it truly was? My time for contemplation was brief. The sound of his footsteps reached me before his figure came into view. Weighty, unhurried, intentional. He moved with a certain weight, as if the entire world rested upon his shoulders. "Morning," he said, his voice low and still tinged with the remnants of sleep. I turned, presenting a gentle smile that I wished would soothe us both. In the morning, he gazed at me just as he always had. Yet in that moment, I noticed the contrast, the uncertainty reflected in his gaze, the unspoken question lingering in the space between us. I chose not to respond to it, not at this moment. I filled a mug with coffee and passed it to him as if nothing was out of the ordinary, as if nothing had occurred. At the kitchen table, we lingered in silence, our cups cradled in hand, the clocks ticking, echoing through the room with an unusual intensity. "Are you all right?" he inquired at last. I nodded, though my agreement felt somewhat insincere. "Are you ready?" He took his time before responding. He gazed into his mug, his finger gliding along the rim. "I stand by what I expressed last night." I was certain he did, yet as I listened once more, a sensation twisted in my stomach, an unsettling flutter, a blend of fear and something altogether different. "Liam, I'm at a loss on how to handle that." "I don't either," he admitted, his gaze lifting to meet mine. "However, ignoring the reality doesn't provide any solutions. I've made an effort. I've attempted to dismiss it, to brush it aside as if it's just a fleeting thought that will fade away. However, it has not occurred. Last night, I finally let it all out. I ought to have put an end to it. A mother's role is just that, isn't it? She establishes clear boundaries. She safeguards. She always knows what to say, even in tough situations. However, I did not. A part of me, one that had been silent for far too long, was not merely absorbing his words. It was about experiencing them. I understood precisely what he was conveying. I sensed it in the subtle glances, the prolonged embraces, the way his eyes lingered on me when I donned that vintage silk robe, the very one I used to wear for my husband. The truth had emerged during those late-night conversations on the porch, where the wine loosened our tongues and revealed more than we intended. I sensed it in the way my heart began to race, not merely as his mother, but as a woman rediscovering herself, thanks to him who had gradually awakened that feeling within me once more. He extended his hand across the table, his fingers lightly grazing against mine. Unassuming, not applying pressure, simply present, simply extending an offer. "I'm not asking for anything," he said softly. "I wanted to make sure you were aware." I nodded, a tightness creeping into my throat. So do I. The following days unfolded like a surreal dream, one I struggled to awaken from. The silence lingered, heavy with unspoken words that hung in the air between us. We navigated our space with caution, maintaining a sense of politeness and gentleness, yet always remaining distinct from one another. One evening, I noticed him observing me while I neatly folded laundry on the couch. I slipped into a soft V-neck top, simple yet effective, its subtle dip making me acutely aware of his lingering gaze. I feigned indifference, yet my hands quivered ever so slightly as I carefully folded his shirt. He lingered for a moment longer than necessary, then turned and made his way back to his room in silence. That night, sleep eluded me. I gazed at the ceiling, reflecting on the time that had passed since someone had looked at me with such intensity, truly gazed upon me, not in the role of a mother, not in the role of a widow, simply as a woman. It was a thrilling mix of fear and excitement. We prepared dinner together the following weekend, pasta, garlic bread, and a salad that went untouched by either of us. We uncorked the wine and let it flow. Found myself laughing uncontrollably at absolutely nothing. As I leaned over the counter to pass him a plate, I sensed his hand resting on the spine. We kept silent about it, just as we overlooked the moment our eyes lingered a heartbeat too long after the dishes were cleared, or the flutter in my chest when he leaned in to reach for something behind me. We simply inhabited it, and then, on a fateful night, it occurred. We found ourselves engrossed in yet another film. A subtle, contemplative narrative unfolds with deliberate pauses and minimal action. I had enjoyed 2 glasses of wine. He had one. Curled up on the couch, I had my legs tucked beneath me, dressed in a light cotton tank and comfy loose pajama pants. He settled next to me, more intimately than before. Just within reach, yet the sensation lingers. Midway through the film, he turned to me without making eye contact and spoke in a voice so soft it was almost a whisper. "You have no idea what you do to me." I slowly turned my head, uncertain if I had heard him correctly, yet his expression was earnest, gentle, with his eyes glimmering in the darkness. Liam turned his gaze towards me completely. "You occupy my thoughts constantly, not merely as my mother, but as a beautiful, kind individual who evokes feelings in me that I haven't experienced in years. I realize it's not the right choice. I understand it's a bit complex, but I can't change how I feel." My heart raced with such intensity, I was convinced he could hear it echoing. The room seemed to close in on us. I remained still. I held my breath. I watched him intently as he voiced the very words I had struggled to keep hidden within me. "I want to be close to you," he murmured, leaning in closer now. "I aim to share my emotions with you, if only for a fleeting moment." It was the second occasion he transformed everything. This time, I embraced it fully. The gap between his words and my reply seemed to stretch on forever. Not due to uncertainty about my message, but rather because I was clear on it. I felt a surge of fear at just how effortlessly it unfolded. I kept my thoughts to myself. I had no need to. I gently lifted my hand and caressed his cheek with my fingertips, a delicate, quivering caress. He shut his eyes, leaning into my hand as if it were the sole source of warmth he had experienced in ages. Perhaps, in a peculiar sense, it truly was. Perhaps it was meant for me as well. That night, we played it safe, yet everything shifted. He lingered next to me on the couch, both of us only half engaged with the movie playing before us, though the plot had completely slipped our minds. His arm gradually found its way around my shoulders, and I leaned in, letting my head rest against his chest. There was no conversation between us. His fingers danced gently through my hair, while I absorbed the rhythmic pulse of his heart, a source of solace, a query. A tempest poised in quiet anticipation. I ought to have experienced guilt, regret, yet all I experienced was tranquility. As we finally rose from the couch, a sense of awkwardness hung in the air, each of us hesitant, carefully navigating the unspoken boundary we had just crossed. I locked eyes with him once more before he slipped away into the hallway. "Good night," I whispered softly. "Good night, Mom," he said with a warm smile. Yet the word lingered awkwardly between us, a form that no longer seemed to align with how it once did. The following morning unfolded with excruciating normalcy. I prepared some eggs. He brewed a fresh cup of coffee. The sky stretched out in a brilliant blue. Birds sang cheerfully, and it seemed almost absurd that a day so ordinary could emerge from the chaos of the night before. Yet, underneath it all, a transformation had taken place. We approached each other with greater care and tenderness, however, with increased awareness. We began discovering little reasons to enjoy each other's company in delightful, understated ways. He finally stepped up to help me tackle the attic cleanup, a task he'd been dodging for years. I invited him to join us for dinner rather than heading out with his friends. We indulged in movies more frequently, prepared meals side by side, and took leisurely strolls just before twilight, when the sky transformed into a warm orange and the world seemed to hush. During one of those evening strolls, I turned to Liam and asked, "What are we doing?" He halted his steps and fixed me with a serious gaze. "I'm uncertain, yet I have no desire to pause. I didn't either." The reality was, being close to him stirred emotions in me that had lain dormant for decades, yearned for, vibrant, not merely as a role or a responsibility, but as an individual, as a female. Yet I grappled with the burden of it all. I reflected on my late husband and imagined how he would feel watching over us, seeing his son and me sharing this new connection. Yet, surprisingly, that guilt didn't cut as deeply as I had anticipated. In an unexpected manner, it seemed as though Liam was the only one who truly recognized me since the passing of my husband. He recognized the side of me that was mourning, growing older and feeling isolated, yet he also saw the part that still held tenderness, joy, and a sense of comfort. He had weathered the storm and remained steadfast. That surely held significance. As the evening unfolded and we tidied up after dinner, I extended my hand to grab a plate from him, and our fingers brushed against each other. We came to a standstill. He leaned in gradually, his breath softly grazing my cheek. "Should I stop?" he inquired, with my eyes gently shut. I softly replied, "No." His lips lightly grazed mine, gentle and unassuming, a whisper of a sentiment we had both kept at bay for far too long. It was gentle, careful, charged with energy. He kissed me with a tenderness that felt delicate, almost holy, as if his slightest misstep could make me vanish. And I kissed him back, carrying the weight of years of silence in my bones, with a hunger I had buried beneath layers of grief and duty over time. That moment arrived uninvited. It unfolded effortlessly, much like the gentle descent of rain following an extended dry spell. As we finally separated, I reached out to caress his face once more. "This feels surprisingly right," I admitted, taken aback by my own candor. He conceded, pressing his forehead gently against mine. "It seems like something that has been present all along, just waiting for us to discover it. We took our time with everything." That night, we lingered in the magic of that kiss, and the way he embraced me afterward made me feel like I was the most treasured thing in existence. I rested my head on his chest while we sat on the sofa, the blanket once more enveloping our legs just like that unforgettable first night. Yet now it seemed transformed. At this moment, it was just us. From that moment on, the cadence of our lives transformed. Every action was taken with intention. We were perfectly aligned with each other. Soft glances exchanged over the table, laughter that hung in the air, and the warmth of his hand resting just a heartbeat longer on mine. One afternoon, I found myself standing before my closet, gazing at my collection of clothes. I was uncertain about my search, but I knew I longed to embrace the comfort of feeling good in my own skin once more, yearned for stunning. I unearthed a luxurious burgundy top that had been tucked away for years and teamed it with a sleek black skirt that fit my curves just right. I glanced at my reflection, gently sweeping my hair over my shoulder, my fingers quivering with anticipation. As I entered the living room, I found Liam comfortably settled on the couch, engrossed in a book. He glanced upward and came to a standstill. His gaze lingered on me, deliberate and thoughtful, as if he were discovering me anew. A warmth spread through my chest and climbed my neck, yet I held my gaze steady. "Take a look." He began to read, but then paused, placing the book aside. "You look absolutely amazing." That single glance conveyed it all. As we lingered outside, the sun gracefully sank beneath the horizon, and he took my hand once more. "Emma," he said, my name rolling off his tongue in a way that felt both unfamiliar and delightful, replacing the familiar word Mom. I refuse to conceal whatever this is. His words settled softly, carrying an undeniable truth through the air. I took my time to respond. As I gazed at our hands, perfectly intertwined, it felt as if they had always been meant to be together. "I don't either," I replied. In that moment, a realization struck me. This connection wasn't our choice, yet we didn't resist it either. We had effortlessly reunited, two souls who had endured great loss, rekindling love in the most surprising of settings. For the first time in years, I experienced a sense of connection. Not at all. The days that came after were a blend of tranquility and unpredictability, marking some of the most serene yet uncertain moments of my existence. There was no formal start to the connection that Liam and I had forged. no discussions defining it, no vows made under the soft glow of candles. A deepening connection, akin to ivy gradually entwining itself around an untouched surface. We found ourselves in a delicate, unspoken connection, something tender and fragile, and neither of us was willing to disrupt it by defining it too precisely. Yet it lingered there daily, in every look and fleeting touch, in the way he prepared my coffee just the way I preferred it without a word, and in how I caught myself anticipating his footsteps when the silence of the house became too profound. One evening, we enjoyed dinner on the back patio. The sun had just slipped behind the trees, leaving the sky adorned in soft hues of pale orange and lavender. I had lit candles. He uncorked a bottle of wine. It was just an ordinary day. It was one of those enchanting, balmy evenings that beckons you to linger outdoors for eternity. He gazed at me from across the table, his eyes filled with contemplation. "Have you ever pondered the true nature of this?" His voice carried a soft, deliberate tone. I responded every single time. He nodded, and after a brief moment of silence, he spoke. "I just can't bear the thought of it coming to a close." "I don't either," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. Our conversations dwindled after that. The silence that lingered spoke volumes. As the night unfolded, we found ourselves once more nestled on the sofa, just as we had countless times in the past. Yet this time, the intimacy carried a weightier significance. A quiet calm enveloped the scene, a moment of serenity just before the tide shifts. I leaned my head against his shoulder, and he effortlessly encircled me with his arm as if it were a familiar ritual. Yet, as his hand softly glided over my arm, it carried a weight that was anything but casual. It was intentional. His fingers glided in gentle circles across my skin, deliberate and unhurried, as if he were committing every detail to memory through the sensation. Our eyes met, his gaze descending to meet mine. Not a single smile crossed our faces. It lacked any sense of playfulness or teasing. It was an experience that resonated on a profound level, filled with respect and authenticity. He leaned in, fully committed, without a hint of hesitation. Our lips connected once more with a warmth that felt more assured, more eager to stay. Without a word, he grasped my hand and guided me to my room. Silence enveloped us as we lingered in the soft glow of the fading light. I noticed a moment of uncertainty flash in his gaze. He remained uncertain, allowing me the opportunity to put an end to this. However, I had no desire to put an end to it. That's a thing of the past. With deliberate grace, I grasped the hem of my top and began to lift it over my head. I stood before him, shoulders bare and heart laid open, challenging him to gaze and not turn away. He did not. He moved closer and kissed me once more, his hands quivering as they settled on my waist. Every moment unfolded with purpose and deliberation. Time moved slowly with a sense of calm and ease, simply exploration. It felt as if we were discovering the unspoken language of each other's bodies, embracing the moment with the calm assurance of those who had nothing left to prove. As we finally settled in, his body pressed against mine, I felt liberated from the labels of mother, widow, or a woman of 66. I experienced a profound sense of completeness, a feeling of being valued and radiant, rooted not in youth, but in the power of being truly acknowledged. Later we lingered in the stillness, entwined beneath the gentle sheets, the warm light of the bedside lamp illuminating his skin in a golden hue. As I gently ran my fingers through his hair, he rested against me, our breaths harmonizing in a steady rhythm. "How are you doing?" He finally broke the silence with a question. I gave a nod. "I exist." He raised his head, gazing at me with that familiar, soft intensity. I'm uncertain about what this signifies for us, but one thing is clear: I've never experienced such a deep connection with anyone before. Unexpectedly, my eyes filled with tears. It had been ages since I last shed a tear. That's not the way. Not from happiness, not from the peculiar, delightful comfort of being selected once more. Noted, adored. I don't require a label, I stated. Please be straightforward with me, without fail. I will, he whispered. Indeed, he was. From that moment forward, everything changed, not with a loud bang, but through subtle, deliberate choices. He had moved on from his old room. He embraced me with greater ease, kissed me with newfound confidence. We began preparing breakfast side by side, our shoulders brushing in the kitchen as if we were a couple, discovering the harmonious dance of morning affection. The home that was once filled with solitude now resonated with gentle laughter and moments of quiet togetherness. We kept it to ourselves. We were unable to. It wasn't about feeling ashamed. It centered around safeguarding. This connection, both peculiar and exquisite, was beyond the grasp of the world's understanding, yet their approval was unnecessary for us. One afternoon, I stumbled upon an old photo tucked away in the attic, capturing a moment from my 30s, cradling baby Liam in my arms. I gazed at it for what felt like an eternity, not with regret, but with a sense of wonder at the peculiar and unpredictable passage of time, marveling at how it had woven our paths back together in a way that defied all expectations. He approached from behind, encircling my waist with his arms. "You were beautiful then," he murmured, glancing over my shoulder. "However, I believe you are even more stunning at this moment." I pivoted, scanning his expression. "Do you truly believe this is authentic for you?" He acted without a moment's pause. "It's the sole experience that has truly resonated with me in ages." And that sufficed. There were still instances when uncertainty crept in. As the night deepened, guilt would quietly seep in, bringing with it a flurry of unanswered questions that lingered between us. Ultimately, we always returned to this point. We ignited a spark that made us feel truly alive, entire, adored. In my view, that represented the most authentic form of truth, the kind you embrace, the type you cherish and keep close, even if the world may never comprehend. Although the start was unusual, here unfolds our narrative. Not a single page would I alter. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.